Fran, let me know when you're ready. All right. Okay, City Council will reopen an open session. City Council will reconvene to open session and may take action regarding the matters which was the subject of the above agenda item 9, closed executive session. Those items were Beach Access Road B in section 551074 personnel to deliberate continued employment of the evaluation of the public officer, employee, city attorney. Are there any action items?
I'd like to make a motion to terminate the contract with our current city attorney.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Brian, please call the roll.
Yes.
Councilmember Seeloff,
No.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
No.
Councilmember Park,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Owen,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
If I just may thank the people. I've met hundreds of people in the city. They are resilient and tenacious and talented and smart. Thank you so much for the opportunity and for the blessing to serve. Godspeed.
Thanks, Rex.
Thank you, Rex. All right, we're going to move on to item 6, which is start with item F, resolution establishing the city's intention to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditure of funds relating to construction, various city improvements from the proceeds of tax exempt obligations to be issued by the city for authorized purposes, authorizing other matters incident and related thereto, and providing an effective date. Hello.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Andrew Friedman with Samco Capital Markets. Have the honor to serve the city as financial advisor. The resolution before you all this evening is a reimbursement resolution. You all had a successful bond election in November. Congratulations for that. This resolution allows the city to spend money toward the project for the street projects that will be eventually financed with general obligation bonds. And you can spend city dollars toward those projects. Then when we close on the financing in a few months, you can pay yourself back with proceeds from that debt issuance. It's really a stopgap measure to keep projects moving without having to wait to get that funding. If you never spend a dollar, you never use this resolution, no harm, no foul. It's a piece of paper that you really need to have in the file should the IRS ever randomly audit one of the city's bond transactions sometime in the future.
Because we're kicking off, we have engineering kicked off and survey.
Correct. So I'm happy to answer any questions relative to that. I did want to take this opportunity to just brief you all on. I passed out before the meeting started a timetable for the issuance of these general obligation bonds. The plan with your tacit approval tonight, there's no formal action required, is to kick off the process of selling these general obligation bonds. That process, very similar to tax notes that we've sold in the past, certificates of obligation, putting together an offering document that summarizes all of the transaction deal points and who Port Aransas is, and then use that to market the bonds eventually. So we'll work with Mr. Parsons and Ms. Honey to pull together an official statement, go through a rating process with Standard & Poor's to get our credit rating affirmed. We're currently at that AA+ mark, very high credit rating, helps us borrow at a low interest rate. And then the plan is to be back before you all with a final interest rate in hand on March 23rd. So that would be the council meeting where you all, knowing the final interest rate, knowing what the impact is versus at least what we've set forth and kind of in the planning process leading up to this, you know what that is and you vote yes or no to sell those bonds at that time and then encumber the city. Assuming all goes well from there, money would be delivered to the city on April 19th. The second page in that handout, and you may remember this from when we called the bond election last August, is that tax rate impact analysis. Ultimately, what this shows is our existing debt assuming the $6.5 million of debt service, which would be amortized over 15 years for the streets, and then what impact that's going to have on our interest and sinking tax rate over time. Because we're seeing so much growth and we're seeing that value grow, the tax rate necessary to support both the operations of the city and the debt service of the city is projected to go down even with the issuance of these bonds. So we'll know that this final debt service we've run at 4.5%. Right now, interest rates have actually come down. Not a promise to where they'll be come late March, but we're well below that 4% mark presently. So a lot can happen between now and then. We've got debt limit looming crisis up in Congress, but we're keeping an eye on it, and we're in a conservative position as we stand now. So I'm happy to answer any questions, David or Darla. If I've left anything out you want me to cover, certainly happy to.
Any questions for Andrew? I hope you're gonna go have a good dinner before you leave.
Me too.
All right,
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
so let's take action on the item.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Brandon, please call the roll. Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Seagull,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion.
Right, item G, discuss and take action on FPLT 22002393, final plat of Port Aransas Marina Annex Lot 2R Block 1, applicant McBroom Port A LLC.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I think hopefully most of you are familiar with private marina. It's a significantly older subdivision. And in the past, again, and of course, private marina predates a lot, if not most of our ordinances regarding setbacks and height and all those other things. So they've developed as we require, kind of in an orderly fashion. And some of the permits and some of the construction that's occurred out there over the last few years have been allowed, even though not in conformance with our specific rules, but rules that were in place at the time, so that the houses did kind of build, and the subdivision continued on orderly. Most probably prominently was after the big fire. A lot of those houses were rebuilt, again, consistent with what they were. So,
Because they did all predate city setback ordinances.
right.
The Port A Marina, I think, was platted in the 50s, I believe.
I think either late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, it was,
So
yeah.
they're pretty old. So this particular one involves pieces and portions greater than 4 of lots. And again, for minor platting, it's anything more, is anything less than 4. So even though there are pieces, we just decided to bring this because it also includes the variance that we could do by formal action rather than what we've done administratively in the past. So this, as the explanation says, just basically takes pieces from other lots and actually combines them into one, but acknowledging that we do by variance keep the same setbacks that subdivision has enjoyed as subdivision that predates our current ordinances. Did run it through planning and zoning. They approved it unanimously. Our city engineer did acknowledge that although a variance, it was consistent with our goal for orderly development, and did with that did recommend approval as well. Utilities obviously all were checked off. So again, and the next item is going to be very similar to that, so I won't go into this lengthy discussion, but we recommend approval.
Right, okay, anybody have any questions for Rick?
So in approving this setback that meets the neighborhood, does that set a precedence for other places in the city?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Absolutely not. Everything's done on a case-by-case basis.
all right.
This just takes a little bit more formal approach to what we've done administratively in the past, and that's the path we want to take.
Anyone else?
We did, again, I will note that we did send out notices, because there is a variance involved. This is, let's see, we've got two private road. I want to make sure I get the right one. We had a, private road. So we had one objection with no reason from private road D. So I just want to acknowledge that there was no commentary, nothing, just, they sent it back saying disapproved, but that was the only response we got. So can't really tell you why, but I did want to mention that. It came late today, or it would have been in your package.
Was there a house on there previously at any time, or has it always just been a?
On this one, no.
Curious. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Brandon, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owen,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Right, item H, discussion take action on FPLT 22002611, final plat of Port Aransas Marina Annex lots 8R and 9R, block 1. Applicant, the estate of Vernon L. Helmke, deceased Karen H. Rogers. Karen H. Rogers, executive of the trust, property location 1010 private road E.
Correct. So similar circumstances, same thing. This actually modifies an interior lot line slightly, which would create two lots from the other ones and portions and remainders of several other lots. Obviously, it's in one of those strange configurations on that curve. Almost the exact same circumstances. It would include the variance to align with their current setbacks that predated our existing ones. But this one would in fact create two lots. And again, same recommendation for approval from planning and zoning as from our city engineer and with utility concurrence with that. So we recommend approval.
Any questions?
A motion to approve?
I'll second.
Right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Brandon, please call the roll. Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Seeloff,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owen,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, item I, discuss and take action on FPLT 22002609, preliminary and final plat of Mersol subdivision 2. Applicant is Mersol Villages LLC.
Thank you. David has the location. Most of you are familiar with this property that's been platted in the infrastructure already in with a temporary cul-de-sac on the end. We have an ordinance that limits the distance of a dead-end street. This didn't quite meet. It wasn't quite to that extent. So this preliminary and final plat proposes to go to that extent and create a new plat with the again to take advantage of that allowance to go all the way to the end. Again, although there's a possibility of future development, obviously that would require additional platting. So this action is simply for that additional area and the supporting lots. With that, I know the project engineer is here as well as the developer. Again, a pretty straightforward ask and plat. Planning and zoning approved. And our utilities also signed off on it. So I don't know if there's any technical questions. Like I said, what David has drawn is pretty much as what you have here and is the extent of the request at this point. No wetlands impacted or anything else with that. Some people had that question.
And the reason for that ordinance on a dead end street is for access.
It's a planning tool. You just don't want streets that extend ad infinitum distance wise and force people to travel all the way back down. So, normally you have subdivisions with blocks and others. Again, this, if ever-
Firefighting, I think.
firefighting, there's a lot of reasoning, and it's been in place for a long time. So that's the main rationale. It's just a planning tool to keep from having super lengthy streets.
So Dave, how much extra is it, or Rick? I mean, is it going twice as far or?
Yeah, it's about twice. It's like another 480 feet, right around in there. I think if you look at the plat, you can kind of discern,
Where the previous,
like that one lot line there, that's 5. I can't read that number, but 494.
Maybe you can answer.
Hmm?
The engineer maybe.
Oh, yeah, Steven's
yes,
here.
David, Eddie,
It's another 590 on top of,
It's
longer
than twice as long.
there's the removal of the cul-de-sac. So it's like 590 on top of
you know what the original-
375.
Okay.
Does he see the paper?
Stephen Grunwald with Urban Engineering. I'm not sure exactly what the original phase one length of street was.
It's about 375 on Google Earth.
But I know that what we're proposing is under 1,000 feet from the line, so.
Were there any issues from emergency services with that extra extent? Did you check with them?
No, because of our additional requirement that a dead end street ends in a cul-de-sac of specified size. Okay. Which provides that turnaround radius for
Thank you.
emergency vehicles.
Thanks for.
Yes, sir.
For our big truck,
Or
not a little ambulance,
Not a land.
the big one.
Big.
Okay.
2 city specs, so.
The current big truck we have, not.
Yeah,
No, that came up once before. So it was like,
Is that
You need to
big truck?
specify.
don't buy a bigger truck.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Brandon, please call the roll.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Seeloff,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Bridger,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owen,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, item J, discuss and take action on recommendations for changes related primarily to the short-term rental rules, regulations, chapter 12, article 8, listed on the attached final report of the ad hoc STR working group. Some suggestions, although related to SDRs, may not involve other sections of Port Aransas code. So we.
Oh, this is really yours.
Mhm.
So really the only change I looked at was removing grass from item C was a big change that we crossed out. Am I correct? Otherwise,
And then adding streets on D.
yeah, adding
On that
yeah.
one, yeah. That was.
Tim, would you mind just reading through them real quick,
Yeah,
just so
sure.
we can get it on record?
No problem. Is it okay, Wendy?
Sure,
Okay,
absolutely.
all right. Item A, require available compliant off-street parking spaces to be listed in all advertising, including but not limited to online and print. Only those legal off-street parking spaces can and must be listed.
And we were gonna include the on-street parking verbiage,
Yeah.
is something we're gonna add on that, right? Okay.
And I'm assuming we'll have.
Yes,
we
we'll
can-
have another
We'll
round.
bring
Yeah.
it back to
Yeah.
first reading.
B, consider allowing an available garage parking space to be counted towards available parking subject to inspection. C, change parking requirements for all new construction, including expanded use, to be as follows: 1 full space per sleeping room, plus 1 additional. Encourage or require any required spaces over 3 to be some sort of approved pervious surface, including pavers, aggregate, and stone. D, immediately red stripe all those streets areas recently shown to present a safety issue as agreed by police and fire departments. Examples might include Anchor Drive. E, work with Chamber and Tourism to create informational video from Good Neighbor campaign and make it widely accessible through QR code or other means.
A commentary on the streets, what I might suggest is that Chief and Adam Benton and I get together and maybe prioritize all those ones you saw, and then that way at least you'll know based on actually the police and fire, their safety priorities. And then we'll list all of those and then you guys can do what you want with all, none,
Yeah.
3, 4,
Because
5.
we gotta bring that back anyway.
Gotta bring it
It's
back
gonna be
anyway.
as an ordinance.
Does C include, like if condos or apartments are being done or built? So if it's a 2-bedroom apartment, is there already a requirement that requires a third
It's 2+1, right?
already?
Uh,
an apartment?
So does C change any of our ordinances on construction?
yes, because right now it's one per sleeping room. It's one per sleeping room. So this adds that additional space.
Oh, that's right. It's not two. So
Right.
a 2-bedroom apartment is only 2, or is it 2-bedroom apartment 3?
Are we gonna be putting more asphalt down because of this?
Yes,
coming
you're
off of
requiring an
SDR?
additional parking space.
Which is why part of the consideration was if there was, and 3 was just a number that was thrown out there. Any additional parking required over 3 would require some kind of pervious surface. So that was the idea behind that, to try to mitigate the additional concrete that you've needed in the past, to build additional parking that you don't have. So it's a conundrum.
So it was the first one, was I just thinking people maybe bringing a boat or something, was that?
Or anything.
One came out.
Anything. I don't
Yeah,
I don't remember that. Fill me in, Tim.
I think that part of the discussion was that as more and more vehicles keep coming, more and more golf carts being rented, that needs to be a place for people to park. Yeah.
Yeah, the one per sleeping room, just as good as it sounded, still wasn't cutting it.
I think too, the thought was what happens is, you're in a house, it sleeps whatever, 8 people, so it's 4 couples, right? And instead of each couple bringing 1 car and it's 4 spots for the 4 rooms, the husband's working somewhere, the wife's working somewhere, and so they bring 6 cars, or they bring 7 cars because that's how we independent Texans are, right?
And one of them's pulling a golf cart and trailer.
Yeah, dual use this a lot more space, so
Or they bring in their boat.
I think that's reasonable, give some buffer.
Maybe
I like that.
And it's gonna affect some people's design. I mean, they're gonna have to scale the house down so they can park the cars they need. I think that's gonna probably be, some of the realization, you can't fill up the yard completely with
We
the
want
house.
less cars.
Well, and I think that was the big part of the discussion we had. I mean, the big part of the discussion was, if it's a whatever square foot house that sleeps 10 people and there's only 3 parking spots, that's all they get to bring,
3.
period. Right.
No golf
have to
cart,
work
no
around
So
boat,
we
no
shouldn't,
trailer.
we shouldn't make it have 10 spots because there's
No.
10 rooms. It should just be the rules. And like Tanya, someone should call you up in the middle of the night and say, get your car out. Okay.
And it's gonna be a paradigm shift. I mean, there's plenty of areas, and we've talked about them, Rosemary Beach and others that have been very successful
Yeah.
communities, and they don't allow it. We're just gonna have to get that word out to mostly our big metropolitan areas that are, north of us. And I think the chamber can help us with that education piece, which has got to be an important part of it too, which is on the, it's kind of on the list with the chamber. That's that educational piece that they'll work on.
So staff will take these, you'll start working them into an ordinance rewrite.
Some of them are ordinance, some of them are policy, but
Right.
yeah.
We'll look at what
Yeah.
where it fits, if that's our direction.
I believe that's the direction.
All right, I'd like to make a motion, if that's
Okay.
okay. I'd like to make a motion to have staff move forward with the direction, except for removing grass from item C.
I'll second.
Okay. First and a second, any further discussion? Fran, please call the roll.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Seeloff,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right, item K, discuss and take action on the recommendations for changes to the golf cart rules and regulations, chapter 23, article 8, listed on the attached final report of the ad hoc golf cart working group.
So for this, I think I've scratched B and G right off the bat, so.
Yeah. So you want to read all those,
All
Tim?
right, I'll read everything excluding B and G since we're eliminating those. A, prohibit any passenger under the age of 3. This will require an ordinance change. C, consider a minimum standard list of elements to be included in a golf cart rental contract while leaving the other terms of the contract to the individual companies. D, revision of the rule sticker and incorporate a city map with off-limit roads and areas clearly marked. E, consideration for more visible signage on feeder roads to Highway 361, possibly incorporating flashing LEDs. F, a semi-professional universal video of do's and don'ts of golf cart use. H, a process whereby a golf cart held for rental will be cited and impounded if found in violation of one or more of the following occurrences. Non-exclusive list, driving on Highway 361. Sidewalks including hike and bike trails and any other areas where golf cart driving is specifically prohibited. Underage operator, low beach driving, driving under the influence, which is already included. Golf cart business owners will be notified and allowed to retrieve the golf cart. Passengers will be afforded a higher vehicle voucher and to return them to their lodging facility. Personal use local carts will be cited and allowed to proceed. This will require an ordinance change. And I believe we made a change to
We
H.
fixed that.
So H. will be-
Everybody's the same.
everyone's the
You
same.
drive on 361. Same thing happens to you.
Yeah. Residents or residents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When this comes back, are these gonna be individual ordinances? So we vote on them, yes or no? On B being struck, like wanting renters, drivers to show their liability. Why did that get pulled?
Because we,
David indicated that the insurance companies can't do that.
No, that was
That was
G.
That was
Okay.
G.
B.
So
B.
B,
I think it's good if somebody doesn't have
I
a
think,
driver's license or liability insurance.
so,
They
Don't
get
rent them
rent.
out, don't
Right.
put them out on our
So-
street.
so then
you have a
here's my
driver's
question.
license and not have a car.
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna play devil's
Please
advocate.
do.
That's your business in that.
So we have 24 golf cart companies that will comply with that, but then we have numerous STR rentals that include the golf cart. So are they going to be exempt from that?
Oh, yeah.
No, they're gonna have to figure out how they're gonna make sure those drivers have liability insurance to drive on the streets of Port Aransas.
I mean, but most of these, again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not trying to argue against it.
Sure.
But most of them don't do a formal check-in process where you come to, a office or.
That could be said for all the rules that are in.
I
agree with you.
I mean,
Absolutely agree with you, but that's the problem
Yeah.
with. all
So if you
those.
don't ask for their liability insurance and
Right.
somebody in any golf cart drives out on our street and gets stopped. Does the police ask for liability insurance and driver's license?
I believe chief would be the one that
He's shaking his head.
he's shaking his head, yes.
Okay. So is it rather than make our police officers do more work, why can't we be proactive?
But wait, hold up, chief. I want to go back to that. If I get pulled over on my cart that I rented, I'm not gonna have proof of liability insurance.
Mm-mm.
Now, the cart plate tells the police that that plate was assigned to the cart with proof of liability.
For commercial liability, like protection.
With liability for
The
that,
driver.
yes,
No.
that's what gets back to the permissive driving. When you have a policy on a cart,
Commercial.
yes,
Commercial.
it is permissive. You are giving permissive approval to a person to drive your cart under your policy. Whether that person has their own liability with Geico or not, your policy is a permissive policy. Just like the policy that a STR renter has in his home. He is permissively giving the occupant that's renting his STR permission to permissively use his cart, and he is covered on that insurance.
I think.
So why would you? It's like it's a double check. You're covered, your carts are covered. So permissively, you're giving him permission to drive the cart and he's covered.
Just
So-
like if you rent a car, right?
Yeah, just like when
You
you,
don't have to
yeah,
have liability insurance if you rent a car, do you? You can go rent a car with just a license. I'm a licensed.
yeah, and it's up to you whether you want to pay the extra
Yeah.
$10 a day for or not.
Yeah.
But I,
So
but
when
I
this
think, I think we're
says,
talking two different things, though.
No.
I think that you're talking about Dale, every driver that is gonna drive that cart signs and they have a proof of, they have proof of insurance, just like when they go to register the car. So it
To
shows that
drive on
they're
a public street.
right, to drive on a public street. I think that's,
Those don't
I think
cover.
that's the issue. We're not talking about covering insurance. We're just
Yeah.
talking about, part of the discussion was the character of the renter. If that was the golf cart owner's decision.
Well, we,
That,
I leave that up to the rental company.
It's up to the rental company, just like when you rent a
Exactly what
car.
we're talking
I
about,
think
not,
that's why we.
All we should be caring about is there insurance when they get their plate?
Yes.
And
There you go.
and do they have a driver's license?
Okay, right.
And then everything else should fall into place. That's why you don't need
That,
B or G. Because we have it now on the application that you cannot have non-permissive insurance.
right. When you register.
When you register, you are
You have to
agreeing
go.
that your policy is a permissive policy. And you or anyone else that rides in your cart is allowed to do it, so as long as they have a driver's
So
license.
that's why we X
Yeah.
that out. Okay, all right.
And there was a lot of discussion, Rick, about, you don't have to get up again, sorry. But there was a lot of discussion about car seats. Does this prohibit use of car seats if a 5-year-old wants to sit in a car seat?
No.
So it doesn't. So you can put anything in there. A 4-year-old can sit in a car seat, but a 3-year-old can't.
in my opinion.
Okay. All right.
Well, there was a lot of discussion on A, passenger under 3, so what do we do about that?
I mean, I think it all came
It's-
down to a car seat issue.
It came down to safety. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
That's
that-
what.
And
our discussion-
I'm with Wendy, like I own a golf cart, I have a lot of company in the summer and they take my golf cart, some of them have 2-3-year-olds, they go across to go to the beach, so that would prohibit them, so
Yep.
they would either have to drive.
Families will be prohibited from driving as their second vehicle, anybody under 3.
So would we
Sometimes some of the
just
best
limit
guests on
that
the
to
island
them
and the
on the
safest
streets?
people are people that have children.
So let me see if I understand this, Tony, make
Okay.
sure. So basically what you're saying, is, since it's a private boardwalk, they'd be, that would be allowed in what you're saying, but anywhere else it would be.
The beach is
The
a-
beach is a
exactly.
street, so
Yeah.
cruising up and down the
So-
street is problematic,
It's
but
like my little niece.
so how would you word it so that, you get to come over the the overwalk.
But you can't drive up and I don't know.
Over a boardwalk?
That would be.
No, the police don't even have jurisdiction, so I don't think any.
No, not until they hit the
Right.
beach.
So do you need-
I mean, Chief says it's probably not gonna happen, but
But you need to park right behind that boardwalk or right in front of that boardwalk. Yeah.
I don't think.
So
I think parents take their own
But
responsibility in putting a child in a golf
I
cart.
think leave as is.
well, I don't know. I think on the city streets, paved streets. A
That's-
couple months ago, I came right at Beach and Allister, and this cart came around, and hit the brakes, and this lady had a half-a-year-old in her hands, and it just went.
That's a lap baby. That's
Yeah.
a lap
And
baby.
they
Yeah.
stick them
Right,
in the
that's a
middle.
lap
of
baby.
them.
That's
And
the
that's
enforced
illegal.
lap
See
baby.
little kids standing up between the two in the front seat.
Yeah, it's.
I think you can enforce a lap baby easier than an age of a child.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
It's easy
There
to
you
see.
go. Maybe that's a good way to.
Yeah, but
There's no need
That's
to exclude the
true.
car seats, right? We're looking at, what started the discussion was. It's like going to Six Flags. There are some rides you can't ride until you're this tall. And there's no
That's
safe
true.
way to put a child that's this tall on a golf cart.
Yeah.
Car seat, no car seat, seatbelt, no seatbelt. In the lap, not in the lap. There's no safe way to do it.
Okay.
That's what the discussion was based on.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to set that standard. But we've gone 2009, 11 years. Hasn't been an issue, so yet.
Have we had a golf cart death?
Oh, please don't jinx this.
No, I'm not knocking on.
There
No.
was some on 11.
No, we
Somebody
have not,
fell
we have
off.
not had a golf cart fatality,
Somebody fell off.
but I am scared that the first one is gonna
Seriously
be.
injured.
I think that one, I think we all need to sleep on that one a little bit longer.
Okay,
We'll bring back a couple different concepts.
Well, we
can
gotta work
further
on
the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Got to decide
the
it tonight.
gist of it. Okay.
Okay, so what's the action item then is for you to look at those suggested items listed.
Yep. And we're gonna, and
So let me go ahead and,
formalized.
if I can go ahead and do
A motion.
a motion.
Mhm.
A motion to approve all these, eliminating item B and G and amending H, removing the personal use carts from the list.
and maybe providing a couple options for A.
Yes.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Fran, please call the roll.
Councilmember Krueger,
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Goff,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes,
Councilmember Parker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Moore,
Yes.
motion carried.
Right. Item L, resolution entering into a contract agreement with OpenGov and approving budget and amendment for said contract amount, setting terms, conditions, fees, and effective date, and authorizing the city manager to sign all documents associated with said contract agreement.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So for the last 5 months, Darla, staff, huh? It's been a while. It has been looking at alternatives to our current permitting, inspection, and actually code enforcement system. Reason being is that when I first got here, we switched from, I was kind of explaining to Tim, it was almost like a DOS, for those that were old enough to remember DOS. Kind of a DOS system. So it was a leaps ahead with almost going to like Windows with the system we have now. We waited a couple years for a major upgrade that they kept promising, that when finally delivered about 8 months ago was just terribly underwhelming. Not good for staff, not good for our stakeholders. And so we started looking, and after interviewing quite a few people, we settled on this company for various reasons. First off, simplicity for our customers, our stakeholders, which was one of the top priorities. Allowing staff to work a little easier rather than harder, a much better customer portal, public portal, which has been something I've been, kind of big on in a lot of ways. And then a mobile app. Tim had asked about that, an actual mobile app like all the other apps you're used to on your smartphone, and a whole lot of other things. It is a little bit more expensive, hence the budget amendment. But I've got to note, we are probably approaching the point when I changed the permitting model with the way we collected permit fees. We were probably at a point where we were going to have to either start reducing permit fees, which we still may. In other words, I guess my point is that we're absolutely able to cover the additional cost by what we're generating in permit revenues. The big bump is the first year because there's significant data migration and conversion. So that's why the first year is so significantly high. Remaining years still higher than what we have now, but I think I just think we can certainly determine value there to all parties. So that's kind of what you have before you. The other big thing too, and Darla's, I mentioned Darla, one of our initial line in the sand issues was that it had to function seamlessly with our finance department, because we didn't certainly want to come up with a system because of all the significant fees that we generate in the activity. We didn't want it to create an additional burden on finance. So that's always been our line in the sand. It had to merge with our finance system, and it does.
is this better for homeowners and builders?
It's better for all the stakeholders and the public.
Is it a better quality? Will the city produce a better quality to its stakeholders? Meaning,
Absolutely.
of course.
okay, I'm just.
Yeah, we wouldn't change it.
It's a government entity
Right, yeah.
and it's a computer and
And quite honestly, the goal was for it to be, because if it's easier for our stakeholders, it's easier for us. And so really the big benefit we're going to see is really going to be with our stakeholders, and taking advantage of a lot of the technologies that this company that was good at the start just haven't kept up with.
I make a motion to approve.
Second. Thank you.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Fran, please call the roll.
Councilmember Scott,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Tim Allen,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item M, resolution approving professional services task order agreement with Urban Engineering Improvement Amendment Number 3 to task order 18, Nature Preserve Boardwalk and Pavilion in the total amount of $35,070, setting term, conditions, fees, responsibilities, and services of owner and the engineer, and authorizing the city manager to sign said agreement.
Mayor, how are you?
Good.
Council, happy new year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, we may not have to use this money. This is just kind of preliminary. What it is, the Nature Preserve project split up into 2 phases. Phase 1, of course, we've completed. You know, we have the ribbon cutting on the 26th, 3 p.m. That's great. Everybody loves it.
Phase 1 being the south entry boardwalk to the birding center and then the trail portion to the pavilion. That was 1.
Right. So phase 2 kicks in where the temporary bulkhead is and
Here.
goes Salt Island.
to Salt Island. So we're adding that biological assessment to the original biological assessment of the south phase.
If necessary.
If
We may have to
necessary.
use some of this as labor for the environmental permitting, but FEMA will not make a determination until we have the scope of work and the plans in hand, and it's in the project worksheet. So that's about a couple of month project and process for those guys. Then their environmental people will submit a letter to see if we can use the biological assessment that we use for phase 1. So, but we need to get started. So, and that way we're not sitting there on hold because, you know, well, we're fighting the whooping cranes and we've had some this year. So that's what this is for.
A motion to approve.
All right. Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? All right, Fran, please call the roll.
Mayor Tim Allen,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Scott,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item N, presentation and general discussion from Broadus Associates on Hurricane Harvey recovery.
I think you each had a package in there, so I'll just start out with the package. Public safety building, you know, we've been fighting with FEMA over square footage and cost. We filed all arbitration papers, and I think we briefed that in December. The actual arbitration is taking place the 7th through the 9th,
In New Orleans.
right, in New Orleans, so.
So our whole team will be flying there for the trial / hearing. I don't know what the.
And
technical
usually we
name
get
is,
a,
but-
we usually get a response back out of those guys from previous ones that we've been involved in. 6 to 8 weeks, we usually have a response back, so.
And also just to tag on that, we should have full design plans finished by March,
Yep, by the end. of
ready to go
March,
out to bid. So even though we're still fighting here, as we told you before, we're moving forward parallel with construction. So we're on task.
Yeah, I talked to Raymond just the other day. You should have, I think they're gonna have the fire station ready
Yep.
close to the same.
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
Yes. And fire station is the next one up. We worked through the weekend, the arbitration paperwork and documentation had to be submitted by Sunday was the deadline. We got it submitted Sunday morning, so. We made the deadline. We do not have a date for arbitration. Usually takes maybe 10 to 14 days and we'll have the date of when that's gonna take place. I figure it'll probably be in March.
But we're moving forward.
Oh, yes, we're rolling. And we've got, like I said, in the plans will be ready for it, probably March, April. Charlie's Pasture Pier. All right. I want to jump and do Roberts Point Park first. Go down to the bottom of the page. We're finishing up the 88 handrails today. They were tack welding those. We have the punch list for Roberts Point Park is the city and brought us. And the engineer and urban and construction will be running the punch list on Monday. They should, it's minor items. They should be ready probably in 2 weeks. So I figure maybe we'll have a ribbon cutting somewhere around the week of the 14th, right after we return back from the arbitration. And everything should be ready, punch list out and ready to open. Charlie's Pasture Pier is going to be ready. However, we have the bulkhead construction going on in front of the pier.
Yeah.
So we've got to get the sidewalk in anyway that ties into the stairs, and then the ADA route system is in the bulkhead project. So it'll be coming back later to tie in, but the pier will be completed. We'll have punch list items. And if everything goes well, maybe a month after we open Roberts Point Park, or 6 weeks, then we should be able to open it up to the public,
Perfect.
hopefully.
A lot going on down there.
Oh, yes. Any questions? And there's the bulkhead project. So bulkhead project, you can see, if you've been out there, you can see that we've got the temporary bulkhead up. That is to keep the wash and the ship weight from coming over the bulkhead wall, where we're excavating and putting in the forms and stuff to put the new sidewalks in.
Cool.
And then Nature Preserve and Boardwalk, we've already discussed that. I guess unless you've got some more questions on the Nature Preserve and Boardwalk, we kind of discussed that when we amended the task order. Public Works Garage, we submitted last month, we turned in estimates and scope of work additions and such. Well, FEMA, they always come back with an R5, which they did. So we're answering those questions and going into more detail, and we'll have that to them by the 31st. And then you can see how many projects have been completed to date. Joanna put a little blip in there about that. And of course, I predict that 2023, we're going to exceed that 17 million that you got in 2022.
Okay, you can page, sorry.
Oh, yeah, you missed, page 5,
They just got messed up.
gas and Roberts Point
Oh,
Park.
gas system is wonderful.
Yeah.
We met, Lawrence loves gas.
So that's, I think that's, he's laughing at that one over there.
Anyway, high pressure, we've been trying to get some materials in to finish up high pressure. It's the system's in use, of course, because you've got gas. We've had some material issues for coatings and stuff that we need to get knocked out, and we were having problems getting them installed. We met with Equix on Tuesday. They have a team that's going to be in town. They're moving them from Houston down here probably end of next week or the first of the next week, and they're going to complete all of these items. So that way we can be completely punch list and we can turn in and be done with high pressure. Gas distribution, we were having progress meetings every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. We've upped those to every Tuesday to get through what I call deconflicting areas. As we move into a neighborhood, you got line runs. Well, you may have a utility easement and the existing gas line, the utility easement may be 3 foot, it may be 5 foot, well, the gas line may be running on the left side of it. Well, to stay in that same footprint of the utility easement, we may have to move it over to the right side of it. So we have to go out, we pothole, we locate utilities, then they'll directional bore a section of it. And then we know that we're online, and then we'll go to another section of it to make sure that we're not hitting utilities. So it's task indicative because you're trying to stay ahead of those guys so you don't delay them. And when I say those guys, are guys that's doing the directional bores. So, but I think we have a good plan in place. We put out a lot of fires, and we're going to have more fires to put out closer we get into town and closer proximity. And then, of course, we've got tourist season coming up, which is it's going to be quite interesting, and that's to say the least.
But completion the end of 2024?
Probably, we're hoping to be the end of 2024. Yeah, we've got about 2 years on that gas distribution. I think when we totaled all that up with all the services and the meters, regulators, and putting in new mains, it was about 70 miles. If you took every piece of it, every piece that went to houses, every piece but I think we totaled up is about 70 miles. You think that's a lot?
So when they come to your street, they tear up everybody's yards. How do you know when they're done with that part? I've got a couple of neighbors asking me, they're like, is it safe for us to put our yard back together? Are they going to come back through here again?
Well, they're going to
run up twice.
Where the main is run, that will be complete where they put that in. However, our services has been on back order. services and the lines and the meters on back order. So our services, line services will not be in and have them in hand until the end of February is what's a new projected date. So then we'll have to come back and put the services in and the new meters and regulators.
Okay.
But if those guys aren't,
There you.
they'll get through and they've been real good about going back and fixing landscaping and fixing yards and getting all that stuff. But every now and then we might miss a little something, but hey, just let me know and we'll get it taken care of.
So I can just tell them when their meters and their yards, they're being tore up.
And then, all of that's in that contract. So,
Okay.
any questions? I didn't skip over another one, did I?
No. That's the last. Very good.
Thank you.
Hey, you bet. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leo.
All right, item O, resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2023 Chevrolet Silverado for the Facilities Department from Caldwell Country Chevrolet through the Buy Board Purchasing Cooperative in the total amount of $50,690. Funding from FY 222223 Budgetal Capital Outlay Account 050 General Fund.
So this is for our custodial department. This is the truck. If you remember during budget, we're like, how do you get a half a truck? It's budgeted half out of general fund, half out of the facility fund, but we did only budget $40,000. And the price of the truck, even through a purchasing co-op, is $50,690. Prices just went up over the department director's estimate. So that will need to have a subsequent budget amendment if you do approve this purchase. But
And we'll do that.
it's
We'll-
extremely old.
And we'll do the budget amendment at the end of the year, correct?
Correct. Okay. But this is saying, yeah, I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Do that later.
A motion to approve?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Fran, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Figure,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Chairperson Bowman,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, item P, resolution authorizing the purchase of two 2023 Chevrolet Silverados for the Public Works Streets Department from Caldwell Country Chevrolet through the Buy Board Purchasing Cooperative in the total amount of $99,080. Funding from fiscal year 2022-2023 Budget Capital Outlay Account 050 General Fund.
This has the same type of issue. We only budgeted 90,000 for these two vehicles, so there may need to be, this is a bigger department that has more funds. It may need a budget amendment at the end of the year of approximately $10,000. But this is for a replacement vehicle and then a mosquito vector control truck.
Gotta have that.
Yeah.
I motion to approve. It's a mosquito.
They begin on Doug's.
All right,
Second.
all right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Fran, please call the roll.
Bowman,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Seagull,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, item Q, general discussion on development of hotel convention center.
It's me.
Yeah.
Well, a while back, Dave and I were talking, or several of us were talking about expanding the civic center. And since we don't have anything going on, we've waited so long for conference center. What's the best options?
Yeah, I do not have my little.
Did you
picture
not
I
get your
drew.
picture?
I didn't copy it. So, and I think I've shared this with numerous people over the years. So, as you guys know, December 31st, the deal with the RFQ expired. So we are now pretty much back to square one. We do not think that the state option is in play anymore. That's where the state donates its portion of hot tax and sales tax for a 15-year period. So the state most likely is out of the deal. The city could still do their sales tax and hot tax and enter into what's called a 381 agreement with a proposed contractor. If we wanted to revisit that idea of having a partnership. The other idea would be kind of the more mom and pop version. If we wanted to proceed with it, gonna zoom in on City Hall here, and the concept would be building out the Civic Center space and expanding into the grass area around the Civic Center. In this direction here, kind of coming around like that, and then eating into some of the courtyard there, and kind of coming down like this. So if you expanded into those areas, you would meet the square footage of what was in the city's original RFQ that we put out 3 years ago in 18 or 19. So it's not it is a possibility to do it on site. We have, the new parking area coming into play. We have the old Foxshot property that's now ours. Most likely in a couple of years, you're gonna have the vacant lot across the street where the lifeguards are, that's available. So the parking's there. So that's one concept. That's the kind of the homespun concept that we would do on city property with hot tax. It would include an expansion of city hall facilities that would allow you growth for an STR department to shift code enforcement out of their cramped little nooks and get them in and then have expandable office for 8 future employees. So the city hall component would, most likely that would be paid for out of general fund. You'd charge your STR component. You could hit up your building department fees for it. So you would have 3 pots of available money for the city hall component expansion. And then you could tap into your hot tax funds for the main expansions around the main civic center. The civic center would, you could have 4 large breakout rooms around in that grassy space. It's very sizable. Nice hallways, new bathrooms. We would expand the kitchen facility and almost double it. You could really rework we don't see a necessity, or at least I don't perceive a necessity of having a concrete floor anymore. Once we get the fire station built and the police station built and the new public works, they're all elevated. So the need to bring in, we used to move all our vehicles into that space. You could eliminate that thing. We've never really had like a boat, where people bring in boats. I haven't seen that. So in 24, so you could really dress up the civic center interior. It could be carpet, it could be all new lighting. You could really trick it out to match your new breakout rooms that surround it. So it is a possibility. So some good pros about it would be, it's not a huge financial lift. It's probably the least financial lift. And for 15 years, you could probably answer whether or not Port A is a marketable convention without spending a whole lot of money, without building some big elephant and then everyone going, oh crap, that didn't work. So this would be a little bit less, it's a more conservative approach. But it's one way to look at it.
So in your best assessment, what range were we talking about? 1 to 5 million, 2 to 10 million?
Oh, you mean for cost?
Yeah.
I don't have that with me, Tim. I would have to scope out what the square footage is. And
Remember those rooms at Sugarland?
Yeah.
Those meeting rooms, something like that.
I mean, we did budget some funds this year to experiment with this concept. So that is in your budget.
Yeah.
And the other concept would be looking at partners, either partners close by in proximity or looking at partners elsewhere in the city. So that possibility is there. Through a 381 agreement, and reimbursing hot tax and sales tax into 1,000-foot zone. So we could proceed numerous ways.
If we
On
do it-
site, relatively close, or
If we do it ourselves, we would then staff whatever it takes to run conventions and run a convention center. Excuse me, conference.
I think at that point, like in this mom and pop version, there's 2 new additional offices that would be probably a quasi city chamber person who is an events coordinator. They probably need an AV assistant that we could use on the side to help Peggy. So, you would staff that component, and they would be a chamber/city worker whose job it would be to recruit conferences. So it would be an additional hot tax paid staff.
And with revenue generated, we're not sharing it with a partner.
Correct, if you did this version.
So we could have a not too expensive, as opposed to somebody going to a big resort area and having a conference room and bring people here.
Right, like the version we're in, they built everything.
Right.
And they recaptured state and city hot for 15 years. So that was their bonus that was their incentive. To build,
And we don't have to give it up in their 1,000.
yeah, so that was the initial incentive, which drew in a couple interest.
I mean, I like what Dan calls a mom and pop version because it gives us more space for city staff, which we desperately need. I mean, we're portable buildings now again. And so I think it kind of solves 2 different problems. We don't spend a ton of money. It kind of gets us to test the water, see, is this viable for something future? Something bigger in the future. That's just my.
I would like to bring back to you guys, so we don't just decide tonight, but I would like to bring back, I would like to further explore all 3 options and bring you guys back some more detail with some cost and some what the 3 various options might look like.
Yeah, because
So that you guys have a better.
I did ask him, I said, if we
Yeah.
built out 4,000 or 5,000 more houses, that's all it is to build
Yeah.
out for Port Aransas. Would that be efficient for office space for you?
Yeah. Yeah, so let me
I
do
mean,
some more
so-
crunching. And I'd like to,
As we go.
if you guys could maybe give me 2 months, I could bring this back probably in March
So do we
with
need
a lot more detail.
Do we need a motion to?
No, I just think
Okay,
that,
just move forward.
yeah,
Everyone good with that?
Yes.
All right, good. That's great. Okay, item R, discuss and take action on rescheduling the regular city council meeting dates for Thursday, February 16th, 2023, and Thursday, March 16th for 2023.
I'm good with changing March, but I'm not, February's, there's a lot going on at the end of the month. For me.
Does it have to be on a Thursday then, Joellen? And then it could be.
No, it could be-
Tuesday be better?
Anytime.
Would that work with you too, Kelly? I mean, I'm okay
Yeah.
anytime that week. I don't care.
Well, Tuesday that week is Valentine's Day, so we
Oh.
probably don't.
ooh, that.
No, not Tuesday, February, what would that be, 21st?
The 23rd.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah,
that-
okay.
I don't know, Joellen, if that'd pull you further enough away from the end of the month. I'm open anytime. I don't care.
I'm good with Monday as well, that Monday.
Just anytime the following week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Monday would be great then. Either 20th.
Oh, that's President's Day.
Yeah, that's a federal holiday.
It's a city holiday.
What's the 22nd, Ash Wednesday?
Ash Wednesday.
Oh, yes, there's so much going on at the end of the month.
What about Thursday?
And I think the thought process, and I have no skin in this game, but I mean, if you do bump the spring break, which makes sense, then we probably ought to bump Thursday or February, just so there's a consistent.
Right, I get that. I get that.
But So I think it's,
The
we're all
23rd?
busy all the time.
I know. So whatever y'all decide. I don't care. I'll make it work.
Okay.
The 23rd available?
Start.
Should we do the 22nd and 23rd on both of them? Just bump them both back 1 week.
No,
No, back.
forward,
Because
forward,
it's supposed to be,
Forward.
forward.
it's moving it back, because it was on the 16th. So you're moving it.
You want to move it to the night?
Let's do the 23rd.
No, back would be the 9th, forward's the 23rd.
Let's go to the 23rd.
Further in time would be the 23rd.
This ordinance as written, okay?
I didn't know you went.
Okay, time is moving on. Right? Yes, it is.
We're moving it a week.
Moving it back a week.
So, Councilmember Seeloff approved the ordinance as written to move to the dates. that are written back.
I second it. We're moving forward.
Thank you.
February 23rd, March.
Just the 23rd.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Whatever.
Okay, Fran, please call the roll quickly before we change it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like my wife telling my parents at College Station, I'm gonna come down to see you. No, that's north, that's up.
Fred, was that
Hey,
me?
we're still voting.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Thank you, yes.
Coming down to see you.
All right, item S. First reading and repealing chapter 2 administration, article 9, Old Town Preservation Advisory Board by deleting said article in this entirety and providing for a severance reading penalty and effective date.
At the last meeting, I think that you accepted the final report and felt that the committee's work was done. And my direction was to go ahead with that being the case, write an ordinance to eliminate what was no longer being needed for the city to clean that up. But I'm compelled to say that contrary to what you heard, and I would ask you all to, if you so desire, go back and look at all the recorded meetings that staff was nothing more than supportive. And my understanding was this was not the end of that group's efforts. It was just a less formal city staffed effort that they were encouraged, quite strongly encouraged and thanked for their work, but encouraged to proceed outside of the constraints of city and formal meetings and quorums and work with Port Aransas historical preservation. So my staff, like I said, worked hard. I don't mind taking heat, but my staff worked really hard. They don't deserve those comments. So, and it's all recorded on the record. So with that said, the ordinance there was written as directed.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion,
Second.
second, any further discussion? Brandon, please call the roll.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Seeloff,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
No,
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Mayor Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, item T. Ordinance first reading amending the Port Aransas Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22, Taxation, Article 9, Hotel Motel Occupancy Tax by amending Section 2273, Hotel Motel Occupancy Tax Advisory Committee membership terms, providing for the severance reading and effective date, amending Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2273, Hotel Motel Occupancy Tax Advisory Committee membership terms.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the previous two meetings, we did have a ordinance presented. We decided to go ahead and get rid of that one and bring back one that was closer to the original language. So this is going to be the first look at that ordinance. Changes here go to B. It's pretty similar to what's existing, but you can see what was changed there through the lines drawn through, and then also the areas underlined for additional language added. Mainly, one of the highlights was adding 4 members who are owners and operators of lodging industry. We also changed at the bottom section E for when they are to meet the committee for the hotel occupancy tax. And that'll be for before the city council does budget goal workshops. So that way the council knows exactly how much funding to budget It's been approved.
Do you guys think we need 4 alternates? That's a
Do what?
big
That's a
number.
lot of alternates. Well, I-
Four
Be
alternates.
7 then plus 4?
Yeah,
No,
that's huge.
Okay.
I mean, we don't do that on any. I mean, sometimes I think BOA has 2 and that's the highest. P and Z has none. BOA has 2, that's the highest. Most of the others have 1.
One.
I think 1 from any other group. I think 4 is, I just don't think you're not gonna get the applications.
11 people.
Yeah, we have one application right now for the hot board. And so,
It's been out for what, 2 weeks now, maybe?
we posted it, I want to say right after the meeting, right?
Okay,
The last meeting, so
Okay.
close to a month.
all right, well. We'll have to get to advertising some more, I guess, or put the word out. So do y'all have a proposed change for 1?
Yeah, let's go to
alternate? Is that
1.
what y'all-
That's good with me.
Okay, all right. Any other changes to the ordinance, suggested changes? Okay, we have a motion.
I motion to move forward with, and moving it to 1 alternate.
All right,
I'll second.
okay, there's a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Brian, please call the roll. Thanks, Lawrence.
Chairperson Bowman,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
No.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Seagull,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes,
Motion carried.
all right. 7, city manager.
I'll give you guys an update on the ledge. Had a good talk with Deirdre, our council on legislation. A couple will, although it's still on the slow side, things are gonna really start rapidly picking up. Tomorrow and Friday, or Friday and Monday will be the Senate committee assignments. Once those happen, you will see just a huge wad of new bills appear. The House committee assignments will be at the beginning of February. So same thing on the House side. Once those committee assignments appear, you'll see just a barrage of new bills. And the reason they hold back is, number one, it's important how people that are structuring their bill, they want to know it's going to the right committee member. So they're waiting on these committee member assignments. It also gives opponents of a bill less time to strategize. So they wait to the last minute. So that's going to be a big thing that's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. Port activity. Of course, there's dredging funds out there. They're not yet, we haven't seen, but the port will most likely move on adding additional use regulations, which goes through the water. I think it's the water board.
Water Act.
Yeah, it's the Water Act. They have been actively working in, we know, Brownsville with the Brownsville port. I'm not sure how active they've been up north, but with the other 2 ports, but most likely we will see that soon. There has been talk about, and this Deirdre said she had heard the same thing, that there was going to be possible legislation similar to legislation in 19 and 21, where there was Sam Pat made a move to add an additional member to the Port Commission number. So we think we're going to see that again. It might be a move to go to 9 from 7 with the additional members, 1 from Sam Pat and 1 possibly from Port A, or maybe from one of the 4 communities that's along the ship channel. So it might be like a rotating, so we don't know all the details. That's a maybe. It's all a maybe at this point, but until we actually see the bills. But so we might be seeing something like that. And it might be, they might even go towards elected, instead of appointees, they might make an attempt to make it all members elected. Whereas right now you have 3 appointees from the county, 3 from the city of Corpus, and 1 from San Patricio. So whether or not that continues to gain traction, we don't know at this point. So we'll be watching that closely. some feedback on how successful we would be going after a change to chapter 351. So she sent me some highlights today. It's pretty much her same assessment. She said the only two recent additions to 251 that were in 15 and 17, they added Boca Chica, the availability to watch SpaceX flights from a viewing platform. So they allowed a concession to use hot tax for that. And then in Cameron County, they approved boat ramps for fishing tournaments. Her thought on, and this is coming from her and her staff and talks with some legislators, is that any attempted use at hot tax for police, fire is going to be extremely unsuccessful. They said most likely you will not even get your local senator or representative to even desire to carry it. So she said that's an extremely tough lift, especially funding police. She says it comes with there's a whole lot of strings attached with funding police, and in the fear of wrapping your hot tax into that, she said you're asking for trouble. So I can keep working on that and keep clarifying it, but that was one thing she said. It looks like a huge lift and would be extremely difficult. So they're keeping their eyes peeled on golf carts, on anything STR, anything long-term. I didn't pick out, I know I talked with Joe Ellen about some of they're kind of changing their language up and not using the word STR as much and using more
I heard they're
long-term rental.
putting something, trying to exclude long-term neighborhoods.
Yeah, so we're closely watching that. Mays Middleton, who was a representative in 21 from the Beaumont area, we watch him pretty closely because a lot of his stuff has to do with beaches. He did submit a beach easement. I need to read it. I didn't have a chance to read it, but it's something that we'll keep an eye on. But she says, as far as visits, we have the Port A Day booked in
April 12th.
April 12th. So we'll get, as soon as the chamber hammers that down. That's a great thing to do, is go up to the Capitol. We do a full lunch spread. We try to get as many representatives and senators to come down and visit, although it's usually a lot of staffers, but it's still a good thing to do. Working with Todd, getting the Port A Day. Usually he tries to get us announced on the floor in the House. So the more people there, we get a little standing ovation. Most of them like us. So that's coming up. So we'll get more information on that. But as far as individual visits and door knocking and handing out our flyer, that's to come. It's not right now. It'll probably be, late February, March, and April. Those are going to be the 3 hot months where we're actually trying to get a handful of us to, hey, who can go up to the Capitol, spend the night, spend the next day door knocking, handing out a flyer, trying to get a sit down. It's just, you're cold calling, but we're getting there, but we need things to flesh out more. So that's coming.
Just got a text saying the EPA came through. It said no on the desal permit.
They did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, anything else on that?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to staff report. Darla, you're up.
Have the written report in your packet, and I did this remotely, so it's kind of in a backwards order from what you're used to seeing it, with the funds at the back and the some of the economic indicators up front. So little confusion, but sorry. Just to let you know, the two that I reported on this month was sales tax and hotel motel tax. Our sales tax was up 5% for the fiscal year for the first 3 months. Hotel tax is trending at about the same, about 5.3%.
And I didn't put anything in here about golf carts because we just got started, but we started selling I think it's the Wednesday before Christmas. Was it the Wednesday after? I think it was before.
No, it was before.
It was before. So last year, on January 19th, we had sold 1,078. As of today, during our workshop at about 4:15, we're at 1,418. So people are following the rules. I think they're buying quicker. So, but yeah, we've already issued 1,400 plates. So our girls have been very, very busy up front. You have any questions on anything though? I'd be happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions for Darla? Nope. Okay. Next time. All right, Lawrence. Your big new report, so full of good information.
I apologize. I will admit that you guys have my draft document. If you're wondering why it has highlights and things that don't make sense on it, I sent the wrong thing to Fran. It's this guy. My apologies. It wasn't the final. Anyway, I have final here, and I can submit that to any of y'all if y'all want. I can email it to you, whatever you like. What I'm proposing to do is just to touch on the projects that have progressed or since our last. And but if we have any questions in any project, just ask me and we'll go through that. For the animal shelter, it's in pre-design phase. It's anticipated to be out to bid in this spring. The architect is working on getting proposals right now from consultants that include structural, windstorm, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, civil, and architectural barriers. She's getting a survey of the property done. And also doing all the research and planning right now for the ADA compliance to the structure. It's going to need some upgrades. We also have 2 architectural schematics submitted to us. And I shared that with the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee last weekend. We had a meeting, but if anyone wants a copy, let me know and I can certainly get y'all copies of any of these documents. Charlie's Pasture Shoreline Pier, that is 90% complete. Concrete elements, upper guardrails and plumbing are completed. They are finalizing electrical right now. Stairs are poured and curing. Guardrails and ADA handrails for the stairs are being fabricated. Concrete walkways are being formed and prepped. The ADA ramp should come next. Charlie's Pasture Shoreline bulkhead construction is at 30% complete. Fill for the blowout area is almost completed. All concrete panels for the blowout sections are poured and curing. All but one storm drain has been installed. Construction and trenching for the sidewalk has begun on the east side of the area. The Citizens Collection Station ramp redesign. Phase 1 of construction is complete. This is the left ramp, drive lane, and its retaining walls. Contractor is now working on phase 2. This is the right 2 ramps, drive lanes, and retaining walls.
Looking really good too. It's gonna be great.
It does. Phase 2 footing is poured and the retaining wall is completed. Currently forming the lower section concrete paving. That's where they put the actual roll-off dumpsters. We're also researching rubber bumpers to install on the walls to keep from the roll-offs from sliding and kind of roughing up our walls whenever they're picked up. So there could be a change order that comes. We'll see if it doesn't fit within the existing contract scope of costs. Gas distribution utility system, that is at 5% completed. We're looking at 2024, possibly 2025 before that's completed. Currently working in phase 2C and Highway 361. Mustang Boulevard is completed and we are now preparing to bore across La Familia Golf Course and work in the Familia Beach neighborhood. New pipe is being installed and tied in to the main, waiting on delivery of some parts that are backlogged, mainly for services, service lines, that is. Harbor bathroom remodel. In pre-design phase, anticipated to be put out to bid early summer of 2023. Architect is getting proposals from consultants right now for that design. Harbor boat ramp and design phase, about 6 weeks for that process, and then award bid construction start to follow, and that'll take about 8 weeks. This
So
will be
hopefully done by summer.
Huh?
Hopefully done by summer.
I hope. Yeah, I think we should be able to get it done by summer. Yeah, 6 weeks plus 8 weeks. That's right.
3.5 months.
3.5 months.
That'd be a good goal.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll make a note here.
Okay, thank you.
Before Memorial Day.
Yes, before it just goes
Memorial Day.
nuts. Yeah,
Okay. I will push them.
they don't want to be working on it during Memorial Day or in the middle of summer. That would be not good.
Alrighty, I will definitely look into that.
Same with the next one too.
Yeah.
Correct. That one, similar for the design phase and construction start. That is for repair of damaged portions to the bulkhead caps. This includes bulkhead cap demolition and installation for new docks and sidewalks. Harbor dredge contractors anticipated to begin February 13th with mobilization February 10th and 11th. Kickoff construction meeting was held at the engineering contractor this past Tuesday. This will be remove silt and sediment built up in the harbor. Harbor master building and pavilion in construction phase with general contractor. Select fill has been installed for the pad. It has been compacted and passed testing analysis. Plumbers have mobilized and roughed in the plumbing. It has passed inspection. The elevator pit is excavated and completed. Forming rebar. And we are going on to concrete forms, and they will be looking at trying to pour the foundation for that building. I think they said, when was that? I think it's first week of February.
Yeah, remind me tomorrow to discuss the pavilion, because they're supposed to jump back to the pavilion in the spring and really hammer on that to get it ready.
Right, yeah.
So we need to, let's have that powwow tomorrow.
Yes, that was discussed today in today's meeting. Basically, there's an RFI out for, there's some discussion on, I think it was a roll-up door. The contractors want to know if a certain door can be ordered, and waiting on the architect to respond, but I'll make a note of that. Yes, sir. But that was brought up, yes, about the pavilion. Yes, sir. Harbor Fish House remodel, met with the harbor master to develop the scope of work and scheduling for contractors. I'm meeting with the contractor tomorrow to go over that. That really needs a lot of work, but like the tables will be gone, all the wood's going to be pulled out, screens, I mean, pretty much the whole thing. The concrete block can stay in pretty much the top portions of wood where the ceiling are is good, but everything else below, it's really kind of rotted out. So it's going to be it'll be a good project. Piggy deck reconfiguration in design phase, that'll take about 6 weeks. However, the vessel owner, Bo, is requesting that we begin work in May or in June to help him when his slow times are for shrimping. So we will look at doing that, and that'll be demolition and reconstruction of the Piggy dock. It is the oldest dock there, and moving that dock will help with vessel maneuverability and improved access to the site's crane pad site. Nature Preserve North Trail, currently under FEMA review to approve the reroute due to a large washout over there in Charlie's pasture. Nature Preserve is in design and permitting stage. Plans are 60% completed. Paradise Pond Boardwalk Extension, 100% design phase completed. Currently being advertised for bids. Includes expanding existing boardwalk across the pond and creating a trail through the Port Street neighborhood around Channel Vista to the community park. Port Street parking lot, construction is 90% complete. Construction is nearly complete. Last items to include French drain paver completion, sodding, which that's now complete, and a couple other punch list items. Parks Department will install landscaping at the curb islands, and that'll include sabal palms, yellow and red yuccas, and pink mully grass. Yes, sir.
On that one, remember I talked to you about that one issue there with the handicap parking and the bench there. Did that get resolved?
Yes, so we are going to have to look into our next steps are to look into the gate, right? And once we put up that gate, we're going to have to put in the bollards and the cabling system. Okay. So once all of that gets put in, I think it should mitigate anyone trying to leave. Right. But right now, yeah, it looks like you can drive anywhere. But next to come will be the striping, landscaping, and then we need to look into the gate. And,
we'll be doing the fencing and the gate installment.
Yeah. So once all of those things go up, I think it'll be more obvious. But yeah, at this point, it looks like you can just drive across it. From what I'm being told by contractors, people are just jumping the curb that are late for the ferry and trying to park in there already. Yeah.
Or they're using it for a turnaround.
Right.
It's the very turn.
Yes.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. Okay, that is it. Any questions on any projects or anything?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Yes, great report. Thank you. All right. Rick, your turn.
Oh, and we're gonna add item D
Right.
from the.
Yeah.
All right.
Missed you somewhere.
All right, well, let's start with the easy, short-term rentals. We're back at the first of the year, so the numbers, I don't think probably have a lot of relevance, but just to give you an idea, right now, we're about 700 that have begun the registration and or renewal process, so that'll be ongoing, and hopefully we'll see those numbers ramp up and like it start to get some pretty good data from now that we've got a whole year behind us with the previous system. It really didn't start till a little bit after the year. So that's moving on track. Building permits. So much like the reports kind of were leading up to, at the end of 2022, we had 336 permits as compared to 274 at the end of 21. So like I said, 274, 21, 336 and 22. Just an example, 19 days into the year, we've done 18, we've got 22 in review and 23 waiting on payment. So if my math is right, about 63 thus far in various stages, first 19 days. So it's certainly no slowdown visible yet by our standards. Let me do the red striping program, and then I'll pick text off for last. So the red striping program is ongoing. I hope that if you guys have driven around, you've seen a lot of splashes of fresh red paint. It's ongoing. It's going to be continuing ongoing. I'd been talking to the fire marshal, and I think one step to make it easy, since we don't have a full-time fire marshal and we don't have a full-time fire code person, which is about the only way to just gain big compliance, and I wouldn't advise that for now. We have successfully over the last few years implemented an annual inspection program for all our businesses. Some of you guys have probably been subject to it. Hopefully it hadn't been too painful, but it, like I said, it's ongoing, and he's touching almost all the places. So Nathan, our fire marshal, and I decided we're going to incorporate the fire striping in that annual inspection. So it won't be a fail, but if he goes out to a location and determined that the striping hasn't been done as per the letters that we sent out a while back, then that'll be a warning, and we'll give them a short fuse to do that. It'll just help us, since we don't have that full-time person doing it, continue to keep, as I like to say, moving the ball forward. And we have really moved the ball forward with fire safety in the last 10 years. So like I said, we got a long way to go. It's an ongoing process, so by the time we get everything red striped, we probably are going to be going back and asking everybody to refresh the paint. So like I said, it's ongoing. You guys see anything? Please, the best thing that can happen is other people tell us what, some places that need to be hammered. So like I said, ongoing, but a lot of fresh paint out there. Text dot, and as I complete this, like I said, don't forget you got an agenda item out there, and I'll kind of touch on that. So I specifically, and again, the mayor is your head of government. I typically try to meet with TxDOT several times a year, and it's been a while since we've had that meeting. And from my perspective, I need to talk to them everything about our lawn maintenance agreements, the agreements we have for maintaining the landscaping along 361, the ditches, a lot of that type of work, as well as future things that we just need to hear that that if in the mayor's opinion needs to come back, or if it's anything that obviously requires council decisions, they can bring back those kind of reports. We obviously use that opportunity to talk to them about ferry stacking and operations and how to make things better. I've had an ongoing conversation with them about golf cart signage, about permission to improve that, stenciling on the sidewalks to identify pedestrian and bike tracks on our wide sidewalks down 361 that seem perfectly suited for golf carts, but are really designed for pedestrian and bicycles. So there were some of the outcomes and results. There's been a couple of questions, and I think maybe a few of you I had mentioned it, but there's a couple of lighting projects that you may have noticed that are going on down there, and I had talked to him, but we confirmed that the first lighting safety projects they referred to them as is going, one going on by La Concha, and the next one by Gulf Waters. Those are part of a highway safety improvement plan mandate, and it's formula based on fatalities over the last few years. And so based on that particular guidance, those were the two areas that were determined to be the first recipients of this safety lighting. And again, I think it's probably a checkbox for them. They've got to do something when there's fatalities after a certain number and of a certain magnitude. And so those lighting projects go on. With that said, we also talked, and the mayor, please jump in too, but we talked about continuous lighting. What would our options be if we wanted all of 361 lit rather than just a couple of these that the state's doing and paying for? And they gave us a couple of options that, we can talk about one at the appropriate time, but their program is the state comes in and pays for the continuous lighting. And we agree as a municipality in perpetuity to maintain it. And the other option that they strongly recommend, and I don't know that I don't agree with them, is a 50-50 split. We split the cost, but they pick up the maintenance in perpetuity for any issue. So like I said, obviously not any decisions to be made now, but we just ask them what those possibilities are. And again, your direction and at some future day, I suspect we can talk about it. Cost, I think they told us the cost would be about 2.7 million for that continuous lighting. Is a very, very rough estimate. So that just gives you an idea. We talked about, again, some golf cart signage, kind of has been on my radar, arguing with them about how we post, especially at the Avenue G cutoff 361 intersection right there. And I think we've got some agreement to continue the dialogue with some masked armed signage. So that was some of the things we talked about. They talked about future plans. Of course, it's in the news, a second causeway to Padre Island, of course, widening of 361 in general. And they're looking at going through some engineering to talk about the highway widening. It's not anything that's going to be immediate, but as you've heard in the past, there's a lot of wetlands issues that are involved. They've done as much of the passing lanes as they can with what they have to work with. So the next step would be, a full-fledged widening. So like I said, they're gathering numbers is probably the safe way to see that. They're working on that. Same thing with the causeway, which is obviously of interest to us, but not critical. They're looking at trying to get the location categorized into a certain zone, which gives them different pots of money to work with to fund the thing. So that's what they're doing right now. So probably safe to say that they're in engineering, that they're, like I said, not anything that's going to happen immediately, but they're looking at that. And then again, I guess as you guys talk with your legislative delegation, Todd specifically, you can have a bigger conversation as to what he can do to expedite it, I guess, if that's the desire. And then they talked about something that we have to look forward to, and I put 2028, and I think that's the date, which probably really isn't that far along, but a complete major overhaul of all the ferry landings, which sounds great until you start thinking about what that construction and clearly impairment to the ferry traffic is going to do. So they're talking about all of them being redone, which I'm sure for those of us that use it or notice it's going to need to happen, but just be advised that in a few years, that's going to be a major issue for us. So, and it's not anything that's going to happen quickly. So they say that it's going to be a major nightmare. So the resolution that you have, so this is something that again was just that I've been really hammering on, that we've talked about, and to find the best solution to what I call kind of a misalignment of sorts of the turning lane, and just what we observe as traffic patterns getting into Whataburger and in some instances CVS. I know we all have probably seen either actual accidents or seen probably very close calls. Some have been I think Tanya and I were talking, I think you were dressed down and screamed at and then, with a near collision. So, at the meeting, we finally kind of got the directive as to exactly how we can proceed. And it's what they requested of me, which is what you have before you as an agenda item, the resolution, just requesting that TxDOT not only investigate that particular area, but also I incorporated and come up with a solution, if it's at all possible. We've talked about it. It's going to be a challenge that, they have some really probably well-paid traffic engineers that need to look at it because of the CVS, the CVS westbound turn and Whataburger's eastbound turn. But I think it's doable. We've kind of looked at some solutions and I think, David's got some diagrams up there that kind of shows some of the dilemma, but I think there's solutions there just for some other intersections and areas that I've seen that have similar issues. But this resolution will get them off dead center and actually take action. Our other option, if they absolutely can, is that we can approach Whataburger, and I don't know under exactly what authority we can actually at the very least strongly encourage that they rework their entrance into two curbed type separate entrance exits. Like I said, I admittedly don't know how much authority we'd actually have to do that, nor their willingness right off the bat. But I think this resolution will push TxDOT into the right direction, and we can see what they'll do.
So just so I'll go over it real quick. So the problem we have is someone coming southbound and sitting right here, trying to bang a left into Whataburger, right? And even if this traffic goes all the way back beyond Whataburger, they'll just sit there with their blinker on. So then now we're down to 2 lanes, trying to come out southbound, and now they're get all jack-legged up because that's someone sitting there trying to get into Whataburger. So or sometimes they're over in the turn lane. Sometimes they're even they're even over here, which is illegal. But for the most part, they'll sit in this lane right here. And it's a so one thing we could do is, luckily the CVS parking lot or driveway entry is offset. So one option would be a raised curb, maybe 18 inches wide with turtles on top. So we had talked about the big sticks, but you've seen what they're at the end of the island. They get annihilated, right? Even if you go to Google Earth there. So if we did a raised curb with turtles, and you could still have a break right here for CVS to come in and out in both directions. And then so you have an opening, and then back there, then you reestablish your curb, and you at least get it past the car, at least get it right to the, their far south end of Whataburger's property.
But they come out of that stripes too and go all the way across.
Well, yeah, that's another bad thing is they'll come out of the stripes and try to shoot like that.
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah, and so, I've been in that stripes, and that's a dangerous maneuver. You're better off, coming out here, waiting patiently, getting in the turn lane.
Out of CVS and go straight to Whataburger.
And in the background information, I referenced CVS and Whataburger, but in the resolution, I said all those businesses that were just south of G, to look at all of those that are making turns that are, across traffic. Well, and across traffic too, contrary to the turn lane. So that's that resolution just simply is what TxDOT asked for, to give them the go forward to really try to investigate and come up with some solutions to that.
Good.
Yeah, I think that's really the substance. I don't know, any questions? Cool.
Okay, any questions on the resolution? Thank you, Rick. All right. We have a motion.
A motion to approve the resolution.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Fran, please call the roll.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Seadoff,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Krueger,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Tim Owen,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes. All right. Okay. I believe that Daniel Johnson, Mr. EMS Director, you are next.
Good evening. We'll make this pretty quick. We rounded out the year, just shy of 1,100 calls. Call volume was down a little bit in December, but it was kind of on track, 53 versus year before 61. Average response times we're still shaving off time, so that's a good thing. 4 minutes and 51 seconds, which we like. Transports 33 out of the 53, so 60% transport rate, which is an increase, and that's really what we look for. You know, try to shave down some of the refusals and get people over to the hospital, which has been going well. Other than that, we update on the Tahoe. I called, it is in paint, or it just finished getting out of paint, so they're about to send me a graphics package, and they're still waiting on the center console to come in, and then they can get that going. We're hoping for February delivery. The ambulance, I called this morning, checked on it. It's still on schedule for April. So that's a good thing. We do have 3 of our guys in fire operators course, which is like a driver operator course with engineering. So that's a good course. It's about a 3-month course that they're cramming in 30 days. So they're doing a good job, and they're all on track, and they're all passing currently. And I think they have their test in February, the first week of February, to test out of that. So that'll be good.
And what is exactly, what is fire operators, like when they're done, what are they gonna, certification they gonna have?
They'll have the TCFP certification for an operating engineer. So I mean, they can not just run like the brush trucks, but they could run the pumps on the engines. You know,
Okay.
so they do all the calculations. So if you can't see your firefighter if they're inside, then they can control the pressures, and based off of who's on the nozzle and the weight and who's actually strong enough to carry it and what kind of pressures to make sure that they have enough pressure they're not burning, but yet not too much pressure where they can't turn and bend the hose to turn down a hall or however they need to.
Do you have
So there's a lot to
staff that already have that certification, Damien?
it. I don't know if anybody has it.
I mean,
Well, all our guys, I don't know if it's the TCFP.
Oh,
It's just not
That's
certified.
not required for
Yeah,
volunteers.
okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious if you, I mean, because I know you.
No, it's just
there's-
another advancement. They're just
Okay.
going
Yeah.
through their licenses and just trying to get another certification.
Yeah, sure.
Is this just online or is this hands-on like?
Both.
Okay.
They go to a skills testing center in Annabelle, and then they of course do weekly tests online. Towards next thing, so we did hire our 2 newest staff members, Tyler Casper and Erica Sanders. They're both full-time now, and
Good.
yeah, they're going good. We had a really good interview process. We had several people show up, so I was surprised with that. And both of them are paramedics, and so that was a good thing to.
Oh, that's
be able to-
good.
Yes,
Yeah.
have 2 paramedics.
Yeah.
We also were able to hire, they were both part-time before, so they're going to our full-time staff. So that kills my part-time staff. So we ended up hiring 4 additional part-time.
Really?
Yeah. Staff.
Wow.
So that was really nice. So it fills up that bank. So as you said, it was a good hiring process. Everything was good. Jarvis Sharp is still he's in his paramedic course, and he's doing well. And he has now gone on to the ride-alongs and the clinicals and the skills portion.
So when you get all them, I mean, then how many will be paramedic? I mean, like, how many will you have there, EMT and paramedic?
Currently with our 2 new hires, I believe we have 6 medics now, 2 basics and 2 intermediates. And then one of the intermediates is in school for paramedic.
Perfect. Good.
So it's going really well.
Good job.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, Chief, you're up, sir, please.
Rick and Daniel took up all my time. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah. It's no good time, sir. At least it's not after 9 p.m.
I know. Or 11.
Or 11.
So I'm gonna start with a shameless plug. We have our annual awards banquet coming up on the 10th of February.
And basketball night.
We tried to reschedule it, but the city manager had overscheduled
The Civic
the
Center.
civic center, so we were stuck there.
For what?
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, if you all happen to know anybody who maybe owns some restaurants, boutique, an engineering firm, president of the bank, something like that, that might want to be a sponsor, we're still looking for sponsors. And hope that you all will find some time either before or after the basketball game to join us. This is going to be a fundraiser for the foundation. And they're going to do, so the banquet, the awards portion is going to go from about 6 to 7:30. And then we're going to open it up for a casino night for the rest of the evening as as a fundraiser. I don't think I'm spoiling anything here. They're have agreed, we've been working, they always want to find a project for the police department. And if you've been paying attention to the vehicle costs are skyrocketing. So I've asked them to fund our police motorcycle, which would free up about $40,000 in our vehicle budget that we can apply to cost overages for our other vehicles. So that's going to be our big project. We were able to get a deal through Harley Davidson using the state contract. So the city's going to buy the motorcycle and the foundation is going to reimburse the city for the cost. So a win-win for our taxpayers. On your stats, since it was a December stat end of the year, I get a lot of questions about, what are our arrests for? So I compiled a chart there for you that kind of shows you where our charges are falling. The chart on the left is everybody, all the arrests, and the one on the right, I excluded the warrants out of that, just so you have a better idea of what we're dealing with as a new charge type of situation. If you look at it, you see under new charges about 70%, a little over 70% are drug and alcohol related. Down towards the bottom where it talks about there's 38 charges for other offenses. Those are primarily weapons violations. So I give you kind of an idea of how our charging falls. And we were fully staffed on paper for almost 10 days. And then we had an officer resign, going into the private sector, starting his own business up. So, but we have interviews on Friday. And we have 3 really strong candidates. We're hoping we can fill our one remaining slot, and then we have a slot that will become available on April 1st. And we're hoping that we can put some on a waiting list for that April 1st slot also.
Because you have someone retiring on April 1st or something?
No, we gave up some slots in the budget cycle to help fund some of the other things going on.
Or something. Okay.
And so one of them got refunded beginning the 1st of April. So it's just a 6-month funding. And just as you all remember, just to refresh your memory, we agreed during that budget discussions that if we had that slot filled on April 1st, that we would at least have a discussion about maybe doing a mid-year slot to get us back to the full staff. So if we get the April 1st slot, I'll probably be back here in April or May to talk about maybe doing a mid-year hire. So, any questions or anything? Appreciate you all's continued support.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. All right, Dave, anything else?
No.
All right. Item 11 is city council comments and items for future consideration. Anybody?
We find ourselves now for the second time in a year without a city attorney. And it's a critical position. What are the next steps? We need another RFQ. Can we use some of the RFQ, the individuals that applied for the prior one?
However you guys want to proceed.
I
RFQ's
think there
fine.
were some other good candidates that applied.
Yeah.
It might be a good step, at least to get an interim attorney. I don't think it's wise, as we said last time, to have any lapse in coverage.
I would agree. So I think if we want the RFQ process to happen again, we can.
That took about 6 weeks.
We did it pretty quick.
It was quick.
Yeah.
We could use some of the ones from last time, or maybe
Well, we'd
can
have
we
to start
send them
from
around, or
we'd have to start fresh, but we'd definitely, send it to them.
So can we put that on the agenda for
Yes.
February,
Yep,
please?
sure can.
you'll start the RFQ before that, though? Do we need? to have
No,
some
you
other
guys need an
time?
agenda item to approve it.
Yeah, to approve the process, we'd have to go.
Do you think we need to have a special meeting just so we can get moving on that quicker?
What do we do in the interim? That's my point.
I mean, interim, I can use TML. Brown and Hoffmeister still on. We still use them we were still using them for Hotel Convention Center, so they're still on staff.
We'll just need a prosecutor
Yeah,
for court.
for court. If,
Todd Robinson was our previous prosecutor.
He's become a judge.
Well, I don't know.
So to approve those items, is it possible that we could get some recommendations for interim assistance and then have a special city council meeting to approve that
Yeah, we could.
I think that's what needs.
in
to
2
happen.
weeks? Give two, I
2
mean,
weeks.
is that it,
I think that's advisable. I mean,
right? Timeframe wise? Does that give staff, I mean, I wouldn't want to say, hey, next Monday, but
What's 2 weeks?
2 weeks is,
somebody stole
it's
it.
the 9th, which is not
Oh, you want-
necessarily ideal, but maybe if
Oh,
we could do it.
okay.
But
Second?
8, right,
And
but we can't do the 7th through the 9th because David and staff are going to be in New Orleans, so
Second?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with the interim,
The
but
second.
I want to get going on the RFQ.
The second then?
To start the RFQ.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and possibly maybe have a prosecutor lined. I mean, I know some of the prosecuting cases can stack up. We don't want them stacking up forever though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because we usually have quite a few. We will have a quorum there on the 2nd.
February 13th is court.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we
so
can get
we-
somebody.
But all that would be to, we need to actually officially appoint an interim city attorney.
do we have to?
Well, for the court would be the only thing that.
Well, I would need, I need to
It's not
find
till
out
the
how quick,
13th,
I
she
mean, that's
said.
gonna be that's a tough
Yeah.
lift.
Mhm.
I mean, hiring someone by that date.
But our previous prosecutor wasn't our city attorney.
No, he was a subcontractor. Yeah, I'm gonna need a couple days
Does
to,
that need to be approved by council though? I don't, would it need for an interim position?
Yeah.
yeah, you still gotta approve it.
I think we would at least have to have an agenda action item to instruct city staff to hire an interim, and we
Yeah.
don't have that as an item, so.
Yeah.
I think we at the very least have to have a meeting to do that.
Okay, well then I'd suggest that we do exactly that. We
Okay.
put together a quick meeting and instruct staff to hire an interim city attorney
Yeah.
and an RFQ. Do you agree?
And start the
On the
RFQ,
second,
yeah, I agree, yeah,
2nd of February,
yes,
okay.
The second?
yeah.
Okay.
At 5.
Groundhog Day.
All right, any other items for consideration? Expression of thanks, congratulations, condolences, any other information?
I just want to thank the two committees for putting their time in, STR and golf cart portion.
Yeah, it worked out good.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's good. All right, if that's it,
Glad you're-
we're adjourned.
That's some question.